Hey guys, what's
So thank you very much to the 5 gifted community subs, man. Thank you so much, dude. Thank you very much.
up? MadSeason here, back with another video for you. Over the years of World of Warcraft's lifespan, there have been some players or moments that have stood out from the rest, either in a good way or a bad way. So in this video, I thought I'd take a step out of the game for a moment and talk about some of the more famous or infamous players of World of Warcraft.
It's too loud.
I won't really include YouTube content creators because that's a little boring, I think. Instead, I want to focus on the people who were involved in some interesting or some funny in-game event. People who left such an impression that they have in-game references or items.
McConnell, you see that?
Who gives a shit, dude?
What do you mean, dude? What do you mean? What the fuck? Thank you so much, Befquack. I really fucking appreciate that, man. Thank you, dude. Oh my god, I really fucking appreciate your support. Thank you so much with the 100 gifted subs, man. What the fuck? Thank you so much, Befquack. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. Thank you so much for your support. I fucking love you, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, dude. Such an asshole. No, McConnell's not an asshole. He's just in a bad mood.
God, why don't you just suck his dick already? Why don't you give him your fucking Snapchat? You should let this guy DM you on Twitter and Discord. You should let this guy join your guild. Actually, make this guy GM of your guild. I mean, he's such a great person, man.
What, were you salty about failing your trial back in HFC? You're gonna bring that up again?
No, I don't give a fuck.
Well, you're talking about joining the guild, and you know, I was just curious if that's something that's gonna.
I'm just saying, you should give this guy more than a 10-second reaction for $2,000. That's all.
What do you want me to do?
I mean, he's clearly a very supportive guy.
I do. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you so much. Like, I think you're just trying to make me. You just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Named after them. So, let's get into it. These are the most famous or infamous players of World of Warcraft.
Oh, great start. I love this. Oh, yeah. Artisma groans slowly, biting...
Number 1. Gedren the Dwarf and his Dwarven hand cannon. Out of boredom, one day Gedren went to go exploring in the Deep Run tram that connects Stormwind to Ironforge, and he came upon a, interesting scene. You see, Gedren was on a role-playing realm, and he came upon two night elves in the middle of a very special roleplay, Enotep and Artemisa. Hey, nothing says romance like a dark, dank corner of a public transit station. Enotep settles for nothing less than the top high-class venues to engage in cyber-diddling. The hairy dwarf skulked the shadows, assessing the situation from afar. And, seizing the moment, Gedren decided to join in. He emerged from the shadows and interjected himself into their intimate, role-playing experience. He tried his best, but for some reason, he was rejected from joining in. Enotep didn't roll that way apparently, so Gedren quickly retreated into the shadows to watch from a safe distance from Enotep's roaming fingers. But the moment had passed. Before Gedren could even whip out his dwarven hand cannon, Artemisa took her leave. In fact, she walked her butt all the way back to Ironforge. Uber didn't exist back then, apparently. Enotep, not too pleased with this turn of events, prepared to take his leave as well. No one stands in the way of a night elf and his E-action. He re-equipped his clothing and verbally bombasted the dirty dwarf for dropping in uninvited. Feeling remorse for ruining the moment, Gedren offered an apology, but it wasn't taken. He had done quite enough, and Enotep walked off into the sunset, never to be seen again. For number 2, we have Karmer the Paladin. Back in vanilla, there was an ability called Reckoning. This would give the Paladin an extra attack on his next attack upon being critically hit, stacking infinitely. A Paladin by the name of Karmer saw the potential in this, and using the dueling mechanic, he stacked Reckoning to an absurd amount to become a weapon of mass destruction. He did this right next to the outdoor raid boss, Kha'Zix, and when he was ready, he charged in and soloed him. A video of the event was released. Paladins worldwide started emulating it, using it to one-shot people in PvP, kill Kha'Zix themselves, etc. Reckoning was quickly hotfixed to only store 5 charges max before more damage could be done, and Karmer as a result became a legend amongst Paladins. Next up, we have our first infamous player, Analog Kid. Drama over loot has never been in short order in this game, but centered around Analog Kid, it reached its apex in the Burning Crusade expansion. He was a rogue in the Vicarious Guild on the Area 52 server. From the Sunwell Plateau raid, the final boss there, Kil'jaeden, dropped the legendary hunter bow, Thoradal the Star's Fury.
I have that.
This was the first legendary item for hunters. It was perfect. It had a slow speed, amazing stats, and best of all, it had its own ammo. This was back when hunters needed to buy ammo for their bows and guns. It was the item, and every hunter wanted it.
That's why they gave it to the rogue.
It dropped for the Vicarious Guild, and one of 2 hunters would be the lucky recipient, or so they thought. Citing that Analog Kid was more loyal to the guild, the item was given to him, a rogue, to use as a stat stick over the 2 hunters in the raid.
Yep.
Remember, this was also back when rogues had a ranged weapon slot and hunters had melee weapon slots. They could equip both, but obviously, ranged wasn't the rogue's primary, and it was just used for extra stats.
No big deal.
Word of this quickly spread, and the whole guild and Analog Kid became the subject of ridicule and anger. The ongoing joke in the game was that everything was a hunter weapon. Well, for this day only, this legendary bow was a rogue weapon.
That's right.
Let's take a break from the drama. Next up on our list, we have Indalamar the Warrior of the Guild Nerfed. And when I say the warrior, I mean the warrior. Back in the game's infancy during the beta, no one really knew how to play. Everyone quote-unquote knew that warriors were the worst class in the game. They killed things much too slowly and were constantly calling for buffs on the forums and whatnot.
True.
Everyone knew they were underpowered, except Indalamar. He called out against these cries for buffs and said that warriors weren't underpowered, but rather overpowered if you knew what you were doing. No one believed him, so he put his money where his mouth was and made a video showing how it's done. He showcased a 3-minute run of him steamrolling through high-level mobs, often killing them in just 2 hits, which was unheard of those days. Back then, the Bloodthirst ability worked much like Victory Rush, where it was triggered off of kills.
Wait, what
so
the fuck?
He just chain killed an entire compound without having to stop once to heal.
Jesus Christ.
To everyone's shock, he was right. Warriors were overpowered. In a storm of people saying that they were weak, he showed that with proper itemization and talents, they were wrecking balls. Shortly after the video was released, warriors were hit with the nerf bat, and everyone pointed their fingers at Indalamar as the cause.
Yep.
He was just a little too good, and the class suffered because of it. In fact, he was so good that Blizzard hired him as an itemization developer. He's had a few items named after him, Ramaladni's Blade of Culling and Icy Grasp, which is just his name spelled backwards. And even in Diablo 3, you have the Ramaladni's Gift, which gives a socket to any legendary. He also got his own card in World of Warcraft's trading card game. Like I said, he was the warrior.
Imagine being so good at a game that the developer just hires you. Like, that was Blizzard back in the day, man. They were like, yo, this guy's a fucking badass. Let's just pay him to make the game. There it is, man.
Next up, we have Zuzo and Shax. Zuzo was a rogue in the Method Guild back during the Burning Crusade expansion, and at the time, he gained the reputation of being the most geared. He had the server-first legendary Warglaives of Azeroth, and most of the Tier 6 set. He was a very hardcore raider with the gear to back it up. Well, someone with a lot of money started whispering Zuzo, offering him real-life money in exchange for his account.
Oh, I remember
Zuzo initially refused the stranger's offer, but he persisted, offering more and more money as time went on. The figure eventually reached 7,000 euros, which was nearly 10,000 US dollars at the time.
Yep.
Eventually, something happened with Zuzo in his personal life, and he found himself strapped for cash. So, he finally accepted the stranger's offer. He sold him his Glaive Rogue for 7,000 euros.
Yep.
The stranger renamed the rogue to Shax and got to play for all of 5 days before he was banned by Blizzard. You see, Glaive Rogues were very rare back then, so it was obvious what happened. Zuzo, a high-profile character due to his gear, disappeared, and this new rogue who had the exact same gear as him took his place. And it didn't help that this Shax character was also spectacularly bad at the class since he had never played it before, which was kind of hilarious to people considering he had the legendary glaives. People quickly pieced together what went down, the details of the trade were leaked, and word spread like wildfire. Blizzard quickly caught wind of it, investigated, and dropped the ban hammer on Shax, essentially setting fire to his 7,000 euros. It was such a big event that it was even covered by the BBC, although due to legal reasons, everyone chose to remain anonymous. In a fit of rage, Shax was planning on suing both Zuzo and Blizzard, but nothing ever came of it.
He was gonna sue them for buying the character and
I'm coming up with 32.33, repeating of course, percentage of survival.
Here we go.
Well, it's a lot better than we usually do.
I have to say,
ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leroy Jenkins!
Oh man, dude.
Oh my god, he just ran in.
How long ago?
Everyone knows Leroy. Being the subject of one of the first viral videos of World of
I love
Warcraft,
it.
Leroy was a paladin in the Pals for Life guild. The guild was running the
That
Upper
guild's on my
Blackrock
server.
Spire instance and were coming up with a plan of attack for the next room. While they were constructing a strategy, Leroy came back from his AFK and with a battle cry abruptly charged into the room, guns blazing, or swords blazing rather. He pulled the
Chicken
entire
blazing.
room of enemies and the entire raid was overwhelmed and eventually died. This gave birth to the Leroy term, which is ascribed to reckless or stupid behavior in-game.
People use that
The video
everywhere.
quickly became
Yeah.
quite popular, with it even being referenced in the game show Jeopardy!
Ooh.
Although none of those
didn't know
filthy casuals knew the answer.
They sit at
That would
home
be
and
the
watch
world of
Seinfeld all day.
Warcraft.
Shameful.
Pathetic.
Blizzard also saw fit to acknowledge Leroy in-game through many different ways.
Fucking
They released an
casuals.
achievement to
I
enter the
hate
same room he
Seinfeld.
did and kill
It
50
sucks.
whelps. This awards the Jenkins title in-game. And in the Warlords of Draenor expansion, there was an event to where you could resurrect an NPC named Leroy Jenkins who, after a short amount of time, would rush to the end of the dungeon. If you were able to clear before he quote-unquote Leroyed,
Yep.
you got an achievement and you even got him as a follower in your garrison.
Wow.
Truly, one of the most famous players in the game.
And he has
Least
the
that
old
chicken.
shoulders too. Ooh. Oh boy.
The story of Sarek isn't necessarily based around a player, but
boy.
rather a community manager. The World of Warcraft forums have
So
always been a pretty
mad.
unfriendly place, but it was particularly bad during the early days when there was less moderation and tools for reporting people.
Oh, I
Trolling
remember
and
that
flame
guy
wars
too.
were rampant, and the community managers, or CMs for short, were often the target for players' frustration and
Yep.
rage. Nowadays, for the most part, the abusive posters are either ignored or banned,
I
but
know,
back
it's
in the
so
game's
sad.
infancy, the CMs were a little more interactive, with Sarek being the most outspoken.
Look at that dude. You know
Having
he's
been
mad.
a CM for a couple of years already,
Always
Sarek was
mad.
starting to show visible weariness
that
having to
forehead.
deal with the forum's more unscrupulous users.
That's a
Instead of
nine-head.
simply removing posts, he would enter debates and arguments with these trolls. Some cheered him on and saw him as a crusader of sorts, fending off the
Yep.
trolls of the forum, and others were in awe and saw his behavior as rash and unprofessional.
That is the same story as Sargeras.
This is such bullshit.
What do you mean?
Sarek should never have been fired for what happened, man. Ever.
I agree. I would respect a game company that called me a dick-sucking idiot a lot better than a game company that called me a valued customer.
It all boiled over one day
Yep.
when Sarek replied to a thread created by someone wanting to know how to report a CM for inappropriate behavior. He gave the avenue to do just that,
Good
and
luck
jokingly
trying to
wished the
get me
poster
fired.
good luck in reporting him. Another user replied asking if
boy.
he was depressed, egging him on, to which Sarek replied that the poster was cowardly because they hide behind the anonymity of the internet, stating that he's the one who quote-unquote
Yep.
steps up. The exchange continued, and Sarek posted the frustration of his job as a CM in the form of
You can
poetry.
be me when I'm gone.
Can't help it, posting impassionately, they say you don't care. Posting nothing, they say you ignore.
Oh boy.
Posting with passion, you incite trolls.
Oh,
Posting
boy.
fluff, you say nonsense.
But all of this is true.
Post with what facts you have, they whittle down with rationale. There is no win, there's only slow degradation. Take note, it is the first and only time you'll see someone in my position
is.
make that position. You can be me when I'm gone.
That's like a My Chemical Romance lyric. Damn.
The response was mixed. In typical fashion, some people sided with
How
Sarek
drunk
against the
are you?
trolls, and others condemned his lack of professionalism. And some people were just curious to what the heck was going on. Sarek made another post, venting further about the troubles he faces with his job, how he has to deal with people constantly goading him, deriding him, and so on.
This seems
After
familiar.
a little back and forth, he dropped the mic with the following quote shortly before the thread was
here we
deleted
go.
entirely. Understand that this moment will be fleeting and that there is a hard crash of self-esteem to follow. You'll try to feed it again and fill the void, but it'll never be enough. You've backpedaled into the troll excuse. You have no point, you have no meaning, you have no significance. You will be forgotten. Following this,
I love it,
Sarek
man.
made just one final post in response to another troll thread created by that day's drama. It reads as follows: "Killing a Sarek should aggro every Sarek in a 40-yard radius. It makes sense, you're actually killing their best friend." In a final post, Sarek replied with this.
I love it.
A few days later, Blizzard announced that
Got him,
Sarek had left
dude.
the company. It's still a point of debate to this day whether or not he was fired or he quit. The
They shouldn't
following
have
year,
fired him.
another CM, Dreisk, was asked about Sarek's fate. To which he responded, "If I answer, you might ask the same thing of me tomorrow." On a lighter note, next up we have Kralnar. Every Warlock knows who Kralnar is. He was a level 11 Orc Warlock who made quite the puzzling post on the Warlock forums.
old
The discussion
forums, man.
focused around Warlocks and their use of staves.
Okay, pause it,
The
dude.
post contained a 4-step
What?
Okay.
Okay.
Number one, the old forms were way better than the Cata revamp and this new bullshit they got going on. Okay, they were way better. It was way more manageable. The old shit was way better by far.
Yep.
Also, what Sarek said, the way he said it was pretty emo. Okay, everybody agrees. You could hear that in probably like a Black Veil Bride's song or something like that, right?
Well, you couldn't hear that because you never know what the fuck they're saying, but you know.
That's true. You know what my point is.
Yeah.
Anyway, everything he said is right. And the fact that Blizzard fired him, they obviously fired him. Okay, let's be real. It's just pathetic, dude. Sometimes people need to be slapped down. You know what I mean?
I absolutely do. There's actually a picture of this that I think that it really shows. It really shows it here. Let me go ahead and just pull it up and show you guys. Right here. They hated Jesus because he told them the truth. Honestly, Sarek died for our sins.
Yep.
You think about that. Sad. I don't think they should have fired him either, honestly. I like people that are like that. It makes it interesting. Like, we're still talking about this guy 10 years later. What CMs are we talking about now? There's a couple of cool guys there, right? Of course, but for the most part, it's boring, right? I want to see some crazy-ass shit. I like drama. It makes it more interesting. This is back whenever the game had a little bit of personality.
process. 1. Post message in the room. 2. Look it over. 3. Don't report anything. I might get in trouble, smiley face. And 4. Have fun. Kralnar himself failed to post any information about his staff, other than the fact that it was quote-unquote a good one, and alluded to the fact that he would somehow get in trouble if people were to report him. Players were left mystified by the post. Some followed Kralnar's instructions and posted and talked about their staves, and others flamed him over his lack of sense and poor grammar. Frustrated that some were not following his 4-step process, Kralnar posted the following and was never heard from again. The thread quickly reached 100 pages of responses, and Kralnar became a legend amongst Warlocks.
What the fuck?
He was referenced by Blizzard in their sneak peek of the new arena system in the Burning Crusade, which featured an Orc Warlock named Kralnar, decked out in a full Tier 4 set and using a wimpy level 5 staff. He also got his own TCG card when upon entering play,
This is
the
back
player
whenever
may
Blizzard
search
cared
his
about the
deck
player
for a
base.
staff card to look over. Next up, we have a player who had one goal: to be the most hated and most prolific ganker
This
on the
guy
entire
is good,
server.
dude. This guy.
This is the story
You'll
of
fucking
Ennui.
love it.
He was an Orc Rogue player on the Deathicus server who would head deep into the Alliance territory into Menethil Harbor to kill low-level players, either in transit to other areas of the
Yep.
game or just there for questing. He would spend around 9 hours a day in Menethil Harbor, taking out any adventurer unfortunate enough to enter his
9
sights.
hours a day.
He quickly became a legend on his server, even spawning intricate guides on how to avoid his wrath. Naturally, he was met with anger from his victims.
Jesus
At the
Christ.
time, you couldn't have both Alliance and Horde characters on the same PvP server, so people would make alternate accounts to give Ennui a piece of their minds.
Imagine doing that.
And he himself made an alternate Alliance character named Ennui Spy on the same realm to goad reactions from his victims. He screenshotted some choice conversations and hosted them on his website as an archive to his in-game antics. I'll have a link in the description
Imagine
if you'd
having
like to see all of
your own
them. There are a
website
lot.
just to post
He's since
rage
moved on
deaths.
with his life, but back then
That's
he
too
was
bad.
probably the most infamous rogue, not just on his server, but in the entire game. Next, we have the undead warrior, Noctin. Noctin isn't really known for an in-game event. Instead, he's known as being the first recorded recipient of the first legendary in the game, the Talisman of the Binding Shard.
There it is, man.
This was a legendary amulet that dropped
There
off
it
of the
is.
Baron Geddon boss in the Molten Core raid. It had some resistances, strength, agility, stamina,
That's a
and a
good
thorns
necklace.
proc. Noctin was the lucky recipient in a March of 2005 raid by the guild Nerfed, the same one Indalamar was from.
That nerf
But
skill
the
is
item
really
wasn't
good.
actually intended to be a drop in the game. Blizzard just forgot to remove it. As soon as word spread, Blizzard removed the necklace from the loot tables and let Noctin keep his, making him the only person to ever have this legendary necklace.
That's pretty fucking cool.
Odd groups got left, even
Oh,
groups
look who
got
it is.
right. That means 1, 3,
Yeah,
5,
Scuffed Heart of
7
Azeroth,
left,
yeah.
2, 4,
No,
6,
the scuffed,
8
the
right.
Heart of Azeroth is scuffed talisman.
Anyone
binding
who's
shard.
played World of Warcraft knows about the Onyxia wipe animation. The person you just heard was named Dives, Tauren warrior and leader of the guild Wipe Club. On one fateful night, Wipe Club decided to raid Onyxia's lair.
Whelps! Left side! Even side! Many whelps! Now handle it!
There it is, dude.
Dives was the acting raid leader at the time, and as you just heard, things weren't
I like
going
how he
so
cut
well.
it.
They were having trouble killing the boss, and Dives wasn't too happy with the raid's performance. And
love it
what
whenever people get
resulted
mad.
was the birth of one of the biggest rage moments in the history of gaming.
Yeah.
That's a fucking 50 DKP minus! What the was that?
One of the raid members
He doesn't
took
wanna get
audio of Dives'
demonetized.
vexation and made it into an animation that was watched around the world.
It sure was.
At the time of this video, the animation has reached over 8 million views and is an example of what can happen when people take things just a tad too seriously.
That's about right.
I played just a sample since I want to keep this video PG-13, but if you want to see the whole 4-minute
have one
meltdown,
fuck, that's
I'll have a
okay.
link in the description. So, that's about it. Those are some of World of Warcraft's most famous or infamous players. There's probably a lot that I missed.
That was good.
Feel free to let me know, and if you enjoyed the video enough, I might make a part 2 to this. Let me know if you'd like to see that. As always, I hope you found the video entertaining, like it if you liked it, and thanks for watching. Peace.
I like that a lot, dude. Like that video was really, really good. Like the way it just like went through like different legends in the game. I don't know, that's cool as fuck, man. We are gonna watch part 2, but we're gonna watch part 2 either tomorrow or on Friday, because I'm gonna call it a day, guys.